Roy.
Listen. Listen. Calm down. Calm down.
Hello and good evening. You are watching Asia Prime on Metro Globe Network, and we are live from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Fifi Alaidea here.
And I'm Ralph Tambubula. I'm glad you can join us. In the next 60 minutes, we have Prime stories from all over the world. And here are tonight's top stories.
The U.S. has faced criticism for the chaos in Afghanistan as it withdraws troops from the country. Vice President Kamala Harris looks to assure U.S. allies in the Southeast Asia and Pacific region in her visit to Singapore.
Vietnam is deploying troops, issues stay-home order as COVID deaths spiral.
There are around 56 films in 2020 and 63 film titles in 2021 circulated either in cinemas or streaming platforms in Indonesia. How can we support the industry for it to be able to advance? We will be discussing this topic tonight.
We begin tonight's edition from Malaysia, where after a political turmoil, the country's newly appointed Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob delivers his first national address, asking the unity of the Malaysian people to tackle a runaway pandemic and revive a slumping economy. The day after being sworn in, the Prime Minister says the two changes of government since the 2018 elections have been detrimental to the country and distressed the public. He urges all lawmakers to find a common ground and work together to help the nation recover. Many view Ismail's appointment as a return back to status quo. He was the Deputy Prime Minister under the government of Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, who resigned after he lost majority support in the parliament. Ismail says he will invite the opposition to be part of the National Recovery Council and the committee combating COVID-19.
Kestabilan politik perlu segera dicapai menerusi kebersamaan. Ini termasuklah mewujudkan kerjasama rentas parti. Marilah kita bersama-sama sebagai keluarga Malaysia mengembalikan kesejahteraan dan keselesaan hidup yang pernah dikecapi suatu ketika dulu. Saya membulat tekad bekerja bersama rakyat. Sekian.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is in Singapore. Her trip appears to be a continuation of efforts by President Joe Biden's administration to strengthen ties in the Indo-Pacific region. Harris was hosted by Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong at the Presidential Palace ahead of bilateral talks and a later meeting with President Halimah Yaakob. Harris was in Singapore today, kicking off a visit to Southeast Asia, focused on strengthening ties with key allies in the region, a task complicated by the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The Taliban takeover of Afghanistan has also given new urgency to Harris's visit as she attempts to reassure allies of American resolve following the chaotic end of a two-decade war. After 3 days in Singapore, she moves on to Vietnam. Pacific region in an effort to counter China's growing influence globally. In an early preview of the goals of her trip to Singapore and Vietnam, the Vice President will emphasize the Biden administration's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific region with a focus on reinforcing regional security in the area.
We are
are a leader and a global leader, the United States. We have interest around the world. This trip has been planned, and I am taking this trip because one of our high priorities in the context of being a global leader is our membership and participation in the Indo-Pacific region. And when you look at the Southeast Asian countries that we will be visiting, they are at the seat of the Indo-Pacific region. We have interests there that relate to both security interests, economic interests, and more recently, global health interests.
Vietnam has reported its highest daily death toll from the coronavirus since the pandemic began last year. On Monday, the country's largest city, Ho Chi Minh City, starts a strict lockdown in order to curb the spread of the virus. The Ministry of Health reported 737 deaths in death toll to over 8,000 on Monday. The case reached over 11,000 new infections, most in Ho Chi Minh City and neighboring Binh Duong province. The government imposes another 2 weeks of lockdown for Ho Chi Minh City with tighter restrictions starting from Monday. People in the city of 10 million are required to stay put and stay in. Over the weekend, supermarkets were packed with people, long queues as people tried to get food and necessities ahead of the lockdown. Shoppers queued outside supermarkets for hours to find many shelves empty. The city has already been in lockdown since June, with public gatherings banned and non-essential business closed. Vietnam's government says it is sending troops to Ho Chi Minh City to help delivering food and aid to households. Vietnam is experiencing its worst outbreak of the pandemic, with more than a half of the country in lockdown to contain the virus. On Monday, Australia's New South Wales recorded 830 new COVID cases as Australia set a new daily record of infection for the second day in a row. New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard announces 3 deaths linked to COVID-19, taking the state's total death toll to 127 since the start of the pandemic. Talking to reporters in Sydney, Hazzard says he was very pleased with the increasing pace of the vaccination rollout, expressing hope it could eventually allow the removal of the current lockdown. Australia has been grappling with multiple outbreaks of the more transmissible Delta variant of the virus. The state of Victoria on Sunday recorded 65 new community-acquired virus cases for the 24 hours. Early in the pandemic, the country's federal government imposed just one nationwide lockdown. Now, faced with Delta, it is pursuing a strategy it calls aggressive suppression, including strict controls on Australians leaving the country and foreigners entering, but is essentially letting state leaders call the shots. Hazzard says the goal of vaccinating 80% of New South Wales adult population would be reached within weeks. Also, Sunday, hundreds of demonstrators gathered in Tweed Heads at the border of New South Wales and Queensland to protest lockdown restrictions.
I am pleased, very pleased, that the vaccination rate in New South Wales is now quite extraordinary. And I want to thank the residents of New South Wales for coming out in such great numbers to be vaccinated. I'm advised that in fact New South Wales is now amongst the highest, if not the highest, in the world in terms of vaccination rates. And that only happens when the residents, the citizens of New South Wales come forward to try and keep not only themselves, their families, but also the balance of our community in New South Wales safe, and indeed in our broader Australian community.
Sydney's lockdown extends until the end of September. Tougher restrictions includes curfews in the worst affected areas in Sydney, and compulsory mask outdoors are applied.
The last 48 hours, Health, Police and a New South Wales working group, given the compliance challenges that police have updated us on in the last few days, and given the surge in case numbers in the last few days, the government is now about to announce final measures to make sure we do everything we can. We throw everything at getting the case numbers down, but also while we do that, we put all our energies in getting the vaccination rates up. And I can't thank our citizens enough, because our aim is always keeping people out of hospital.
New Zealand's government on Monday announces the extension of a strict nationwide lockdown until at least Friday, as the country tries to extinguish a growing coronavirus outbreak. The announcement came after health authorities reported 35 new local cases of the fast-spreading Delta variant, the highest number of daily cases since April last year. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says the lockdown would continue until at least the end of the month in Auckland, where most of the cases have been found. The outbreak, first discovered last week, has now grown to 107 cases. But health authorities say they've found links between most of them, giving them hope it can be contained. They said they've tested about 3% of New Zealand's population in the past 7 days.
I don't yet believe we've reached the peak of this outbreak, or necessarily the edges of it. You'll recall that we pointed to early modelling suggesting we needed 8 to 10 days before we would hit a peak. We're on roughly day 7, day 6, so cases may continue to get worse before they get better, and I know we're all prepared for that.
We got to some stories from Indonesia. We'll come your way right after the break. You're watching Asia Prime.
World News, bringing you current issues, sports and entertainment.
On Syria, nation is a threat.
World News, Monday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. Jakarta, Bangkok time.
Congratulations on the launch of Metro Globe Network. It will surely open up a new window for the world to know about Indonesia. I hope Metro Globe Network will offer more reports on China and China-Indonesia relationship and play its role in increasing mutual understanding and deepening friendship between our two countries. I wish Metro Globe Network a great success.
Welcome back to Asia Prime. The utilization of biogenic shallow gas in the town of Pagundungan, Central Java, is pushing the town in becoming an energy-independent area.
The governor of Central Java hopes there will be more places in the province able to utilize similar energy in their own communities. In the town of Pegundungan, biogenic shallow gas, or BSG, is currently being transferred and used by 25 households. There are around 138 houses that have yet to have a BSG installation. Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo says once after it has been formally launched, authorities of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources will assist the installation in 100 homes. The local government is also searching for geological maps, searching for locations of biogenic shallow gas reservoirs. These locations will then be explored for BSG. Besides Pegundungan, the utilization of BSG has also been adopted in Grobogan and Sragen, Central Java. Therefore, the government hopes other communities and towns can also adopt similar models. The management of the BSG separator will be given to village-owned businesses, or as it is locally called, BUMDES. People are requested to pay a certain amount of fee, which is about 50% cheaper than purchasing LPG.
The operation of the Yogyakarta International Airport's railway is delayed until September 2021 from its initial schedule on August 17, as some requirements need to be met.
Transportation Ministry's Directorate General of Railways decision was made concerning several factors, including the declining number of flights coming to the airport due to the ongoing pandemic restrictions. The railways are still on trial procedure. Feasibility study of the building construction, trial for the functionality of the railways, security tests, and testing the switch over or signaling system are among requirements needed to be met. Most of the tests have been conducted, and leaving signaling tests to be done at Kedundang Station. The delay of the Yogyakarta International Airport's railways operations to the upcoming month of September is also due to the number of flights that has not met the maximum level required. Besides, the level 4 of COVID restrictions is still being implemented in the Kulon Progo district, which is at the end of the railway tracks.
Digital transformation has been the key to success for many businesses in Indonesia, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.
For many businesses, going digital, cloud technology has been crucial to ensuring efficiency, flexibility, and also remaining competitive in both domestic and international markets.
The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly been a challenging time for businesses. But if anything, it has also pushed businesses to quickly adapt and transform to digital technologies, making them more competitive in both domestic and even international markets. One of the components of this digital transformation is the adopting of cloud technology, or cloud computing, whereby cloud technology is able to store and combine a company's important data to help predict ways a company can improve their products and services. Cloud computing also possesses a variety of useful technologies, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud-based real-time data analysis, and blockchains.
Sebagian besar orang itu menyimpan sebagian besar uangnya di bank, di mana kita lebih percaya bahwa bank mampu dan bisa mengelola uang kita secara aman. Sama saja dengan teknologi cloud ini, bahwa banyak dari kita, daripada membentuk data center sendiri, mengelola data center sendiri, mengelola security dan teknologi tersebut akan jauh lebih mudah untuk bekerja sama dengan perusahaan-perusahaan cloud provider yang sudah berpartisipasi dan sudah aktif di Indonesia ini.
Companies that adopt cloud technology can also expand their businesses with minimal cost and higher efficiency. For example, by using cloud computing, the time it takes to add servers can be cut down from 3 months to just a few minutes. The number of staff it takes to run those servers can also be minimized. Such efficiencies brought upon by cloud computing will of course cut down costs, raise efficiency, and ultimately help add profits.
Cloud ini yang memberikan fleksibilitas yang sangat-sangat luar biasa, ya, di mana kita bisa scale up the capacity secara cepat, ya, dan juga secara mudah. Gitu. Kalau dulunya Kalau namanya mungkin mau tambah server itu harus tunggu dulu 2-3 bulan gitu kan. Nah, kalau sekarang kan just matter of minutes gitu.
Meanwhile, cloud technology has been proven to be more secure and more guarded against data leaks.
Karena kita memanfaatkan teknologi modern untuk bisa melayani mereka. Bahkan tidak hanya melayani kebutuhan mereka, tapi bisa memprediksi kira-kira kebutuhan mereka ke depannya seperti apa. Inilah saya menyebut sebagai intelligent enterprise seperti infinite loop. Back office dan front office harus bisa bekerja sama menjadi satu dalam melayani pelanggan kita, bahkan memprediksi dan memberikan produk dan services yang cocok untuk mereka pada saat ini maupun di masa depan.
Despite this, the adoption of cloud computing is still relatively low in Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia. With its ability to increase efficiency and reduce costs, cloud computing could certainly further improve the digital transformation of businesses, especially those in the retail, health, telecommunications, and financial sectors.
The present outlook of the Indonesian film industry and what does the future hold? We'll discuss this with some of the industry's prominent insiders. Coming up next, stay with us on Asia Prime.
World News, bringing you current issues, sports and entertainment.
On Syria, nation is a threat.
World News, Monday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. Jakarta, Bangkok time.
Hello, I'm Anil Nair, Ambassador of Singapore to Indonesia. I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to Media Group News on the launch of its new station, Metro Globe Network. I am confident that Metro Globe Network will play such a vital role, especially in deepening the long-standing friendship between Singapore and Indonesia in the years to come.
Istana Negara kini bermula. Kita akan sama-sama berikan tumpuan untuk
You are watching Asia Prime. Malaysia's new Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob delivers his first national address. He asked the unity on Malaysia to tackle a runaway pandemic and revive a slumping economy.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris was in Singapore today, kicking off a visit to Southeast Asia, focusing on strengthening ties with key allies in the region, a task complicated by the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan.
The government imposed another 2 weeks of lockdown on Ho Chi Minh City with tighter restrictions starting from Monday. People in the city of 10 million are required to stay put and stay in.
Indonesian films are now being spotted as a so-called new wave in the world's film industry. Talk about good quality, fresh stories. It's one of the few of the perks for moviegoers. The diverse film genre and good execution have also drawn attention amongst viewers. And the pandemic has changed the game. A new habit of the way people watch films and higher production budget for movie producers due to the health protocol procedures. Indonesian films need a good organization to support it and also everyone involved. Improvement of human resources and career opportunities should be regulated properly and systematically. In 2020 alone, in Indonesia, there are around 56 films and 63 titles this year circulating either in the movie theaters or streaming platforms. There's a need to increase the support for the industry for it to be able to grow further.
And joining us tonight, an Indonesian senior actress, Mbak Christine Hakim, and also a prominent film producer, Mira Lesmana, and a cinema industry analyst, Mas Sigit Prabowo. Mbak Mira, Mbak Christine, and Mas Sigit, thank you for joining Asia Prime. Welcome. I would like to go to Mbak Christine. Mbak Christine, what is the most significant point that must be addressed when it comes to upgrading the skills of the crew in the movie industry? Okay, we don't have Mbak Christine yet, so I will move on to Mbak Mira. Mbak Mira, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So the same question goes to you. I mean, what is the most significant point that must be addressed when we're talking about upgrading the skills of the film crew in order to advance and keeping the momentum of the Indonesian movie going?
I guess for whoever is already in the industry, the more time you spend on production, the more you will learn. And also I think exchanging knowledge with others, with international crew, it's always a plus point, you know. And I think it's really good when we travel to festivals or we do a co-production with other countries. That way we could upgrade more. But I think when we talk about how to improve the upcoming or the new generation for the future Indonesian cinema, I would say education is still number one. I think not necessarily that it has to be a film school, but I think training, maybe also sending talented young people to go abroad and study outside Indonesia, and growing more film schools, I think is really, really necessary to upgrade our skill and experience.
All right, so we actually see there's a significant growth as we witness. There's a progress in terms of those working in the production, be it film school or no film school. Knowledge is there. Experience can also can be grabbed from several different projects. But what is the current challenge now? Also considering the ongoing pandemic, for you as a producer. What do you see the number one challenge or the top challenges that filmmakers see today?
A huge challenge at the moment. As we know, the last 5 years, since before the pandemic, I think from 2016, the Indonesian film industry has grown significantly. In fact, the growth was almost 20%. Maybe Mas Sigit can stress more about this. I think the growth is about 20% per year since 2016. And that we also become a big player in the international market for films. But the pandemic has hit the Indonesian film industry very, very hard. And it's not only that we have a spec or a high inventory of films that has been made and has not been shown in the cinema, because the cinema is closing and then open again and it's closing. But also at the same time, I think the producers who has these films are also reluctant to show their films in the cinema. And then at the same time, for us to be able to produce or to work, it's also difficult. It was opening slowly earlier on, but now it's closing down again. And to have also a lot of production when we don't know when we can show it is a big problem. So I think the challenge at the moment is making sure that we can be safe and we can hold a very good protocol, because cinema is actually one place that is quite safe. It's been researched that cinema, is using a very good filter, so that it's actually quite safe. And I think we need to make people believe to go back to the cinema, because that's the key. If the cinema is open and then we can show good films and the people are going back, the industry will roll back. Otherwise, we are at the moment in big trouble. If there's no interference also, I guess, from the government to help the industry.
All right then. Well, moving on to Mas Sigit. Mas Sigit, Mbak Mira said one of the challenges was education for the film crews, and also aside from the pandemic. But how can we keep the momentum going? Growth of movies is there, but how can we upgrade the crews into, say, a certified jobs in every element of the movie industry? Please tell me your perspective.
All right, it is always with the deeper side, and we start to discuss the state of the Indonesian film industry in the face of the COVID pandemic. It couldn't have come at a more unfortunate time. As Mbak said, we were on the rise, like very, very, very big rise. We spurred in 2016, one of them by Mbak Mira's film actually, and Cinta Dua, and then the momentum just keeps on growing, and suddenly early 2020 we had the rug pulled from under us very suddenly, and we have to adapt very quickly. Now, as I believe that we had a similar discussion a few months back, and we were focusing more on the exhibition side of things, which were the most prominently shown to be hit by the pandemic. But as we discussed earlier in this forum, it is also the production side that is suffering to adapt in the face of the pandemic situation. New protocols have to be implemented in place. Not only does it take time to implement, to train, to make everybody be aware and be accustomed to it, it is also very costly, and that increases the burden more to the producers on how they will calculate basically the profitability of the movies based on this rising cost, and further on with the further constraints given by shooting a film during a pandemic. You have to reduce the locations, you have to reduce the number of actors and crews on set, you may have to simplify the scenes, and Mbak Mira obviously knows a whole lot more about these challenges than I do. But moving on to your main question, is that I believe certification of skills in the cinema industry is, pandemic or no pandemic, it's something that has to be it has to be done, and I believe the Indonesian film industry is moving towards a very a positive trend, as shown by the recognition of our movies in the international stage. And really, certification itself is not directly driven by the pandemic. We have to do it as well, pandemic or no pandemic. But in specific light of the pandemic itself is the skills and adjustments required regarding the safety and health protocols. That is my angle of this discussion.
Okay, later we're going to ask about how do we try to keep things going. As we talk about movies, we also have to talk about the thing called continuity. That is a technical term there. How to keep the industry going, and also the old classic question of government support. Stay with us, Mas Sigit, and also Mbak Mira. And as we also apologize, as Bu Christine cannot be with us tonight for some technical issues on her end. Stay with us, Asia Prime. We'll be back after the break.
World News, bringing you current issues, sports and entertainment.
On Syria, nation is a threat.
World News, Monday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. Jakarta, Bangkok time.
Welcome back to Asia Prime. Joining us, Mbak Mira Lesmana, a prominent film producer and also a movie analyst, Mas Sigit Prabowo. Mbak Mira, we know that it is very challenging time to make sure that this movie or whatever movie we produce is profitable. And how can you make sure that this is still a profitable business when it comes to the pandemic and when it comes to advancing and keeping the momentum going for Indonesia?
I think it's, again, we are in a very, very difficult situation at the moment. It's very hard to think about profitable if the cinema is not being attended by audience, and if the audience are, I mean, the situation is still very difficult for the audience to go to the cinema, because that's where key is when we talk about the film industry. It's the cinema is the center of everything. The cinema is the center where the filmmakers provide their films. It's the center where then the audience come, and it's where we meet, you know, and see the films. And then if your film is doing really well, or the number of the audience is high, you know, and it's profitable, of course, then the production continues. You know, the wheel continues. So when the cinema is now stopping, no matter how creative we are, no matter how many good ideas we have, it's very difficult at this point for us to work because we know that you know, whatever film we're making at the moment, we are waiting until the cinema can be open again, or at least, you know, for the audience to visit. Yes, we have a digital platform now, but that's a completely different thing. When we're talking about the film industry, cinema is key. So we really need to focus on that because I think at this point, when we talk about the film industry, it's just too difficult for me to talk about profit because you know, it's yes, we're being hit very hard.
Yes, but Mira noted on that response. And how does this make you feel? Say you represent the movie industry. Are you like very concerned at this moment?
Yeah. Very, very concerned. Not only because we cannot create, but also the fact that we talked about earlier that the film industry was on a high point. And when we're on a high point, there's a plus point, of course, the fact that the market, it's really good for Indonesia. And then it's also really good for the creativity of the film industry. Internationally, also we are known. So I think in our case at this point, we have some films that have been done prior to the pandemic. And as you know, it's doing really, really well. One of them is Vengeance Is Mine, All Others Pay Cash, atau Dendam. Seperti dendam rindu harus dibayar tuntas. Yes, that one and Locarno. I think there's no doubt about creativity. There's no doubt about what we can do for Indonesian cinema. And a point like this, there are two things that we do. We have to keep creative. So I think most of the people in the industry are developing scripts. So we use this time to developing good stories, developing good scripts, hoping that very soon, when things are open again, we can start producing, and hoping that cinema will be open and things will go back to normal. So that's one thing we have to keep creating. Number two, we're really trying to get the attention of the government. We wrote a letter to the president and we asked for help, because usually we can do this without the help of the government. We've been doing this all on our own. But I think when it's something like this, when we know that we are on such a high point, to think that we're gonna be down there and not being able to pick up again is really distressing. So I think if we could get a stimulus, if we can survive now, hopefully when the pandemic is over or it's controllable, we can pick up the pieces and then we can still be a big player in the cinema, not only in Indonesia but worldwide. But it is a complicated matter. Many, I have to say that a lot of people doesn't really understand how the film works. So even when we talk to the government, sometimes they don't really see the connection between cinema, filmmaker, and the films. So we have to explain over and over again that it's a big circle.
Are you
and that's what
are you frustrated at that point? But Mira, are you frustrated at that point that the government doesn't understand how the film works?
I think it's frustrating that we have to keep talking to different people. We get to talk to certain people that understand, and then we move on, it's new people again, and then we have to explain again. And from the beginning, it is frustrating. I just hope that this understanding can be digested in the whole level of the government, and to also remember that film is important. I think that's number one, because if they don't think film is important, then there's no use of helping us. But film is not only it's not only an entertainment, it's part of our culture, it's part of our identity. It needs to be preserved. It also keeps history of Indonesian people. You know, if I talk about making films Sepadan Batangan Cinta in 2016, this will stay on until 2050, and then you can learn about you know, how it was like to live in 2016, for example. So it's also history. Audiovisual is very, very important, and it's very, very strong, especially films.
It's a documentation of history, indeed. Switching over to Mas Sigit, as a cinema industry analyst, echoing the sentiment of the government support. What do you think needs to be addressed? And talk also about like Mira mentioned, there is a discrepancy in the communication between the movie industry players and also the government. How can we gap this communication between the two? How can we bridge the gap between the two?
Well, I believe it's like Mamira said, it's not something that's very easy to explain. A lot of people are missing the point in looking at the film industry as a whole. But the first thing I want to pick up on this government support issue is that we are not alone. Right, in my study of the cinema industry, UNIC, the Cinema Association of Europe, documented more than 23 government-based support for film industry in European countries, not just the big one, Germany, but also the countries like Sweden, Denmark, even the smaller ones like Lithuania and even Montenegro. Government support is there for the film industry, both on the exhibition and the production side. This is a matter of survival. And yes, it's up to the industry itself to keep the fire burning, but these are desperate times that needs desperate measures, and the government must jump in at this point in time to keep this industry alive, both for the economic and the cultural importance. As for the communication issue, I believe that some aspects, some people can only understand certain aspects. That's something that has to be taken for granted. I mean, I cannot expect Mira can explain aspects of movie production to me, and I can probably grasp like 10% of it. But I can show good faith and trust Mira and what she's doing, because I know she's very good at what she's doing. And this goes the same to the government officials handling this matter of the Dana Pemulihan Ekonomi Nasional for Perfilman, which is, let the figures talk for itself. The numbers don't lie. The size of the industry, the number of assistance needed, they don't lie. And the filmmakers themselves, they really know their industry, and let everybody do their work according to their specific knowledge and skills and expertise. Trust each other and have a good teamwork.
Okay.
Hopefully I can be of help in any capacity. I would love to help.
All right. It's running out of time, but still one final question to both Mas Sigit and Mbak Mira. I would like to hear what from the filmmaker's perspective and from the film analyst perspective. Challenges sure lie ahead, but when you want to draw inspiration, the Asian film industry made a big splash worldwide with South Korea winning Best Picture at the Oscars with The Parasite in 2020, and also winning the Best Supporting Actress in this year's Academies with Minari. What can we learn, and how can this invigorate the Asian film industry and also the Indonesian film industry?
I think obviously Asian films, or even Southeast Asian films, has come up with new things, because in the film industry, people always starve or always wanting to see new approach, new storytelling, new ways of making films. And I think the stories about Asian people or Asian living in the United States or Southeast Asian, it becomes something that the audience all over the world wants and need. So there's a growth, and also it's different. I think when you talk about Hollywood, when you see the same thing, and then you will see that other people in Asia or in Southeast Asia are keep coming up with new ways of telling stories. So I think that's, and of course, talking about Korea, they have been working on this for years. Letting the world know about their culture, making the world aware about who they are. But a note on that also is on Southeast Asia. I think we are making a big mark in the last few years also. Again, I have to mention about Vengeance Is Mine or The Pay Cash to win the best prize. I think it's really amazing. For Indonesia and also for Southeast Asian cinema. This is an acknowledgement that they are craving for new things from Asia.
Okay. Mas Sigit, quickly, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts on this is simple. I think we have to copy and not copy Hollywood at the same time. We copy Hollywood in terms of their production values, professionalism, how they distribute, how they market, and things like that. But we don't have to make movies like them. Like, we don't have to make exactly the same superhero movies or big budget special effects driven action movies. We have to find something that resonates with people, touches people's hearts, not just in Indonesia, but all over the world. Korea has done that. I think we are getting there. I am very positive on that, and I believe in the talent of the abundance of talents of our filmmakers to achieve that goal. China has done that, Korea has done that. Let's do that. Mbak Mira will do that.
Very well then, Mas Sigit Prabowo, Mbak Mira Lesmana, thank you for joining Asia Prime. We really appreciate your time. Take care and stay safe. Well, a very good advice from Mbak Mira Lesmana. While we wait for the storm to pass, the movie industry should focus on developing stories, Ralph.
Waiting for the day when it will come, Indonesia winning Best Picture, the Academy Awards. It will happen. You gotta wait for the day.
I truly believe it will happen. Well, we have more coming up on Asia Prime. Please stay with us on Metro Globe Network.
World News, bringing you current issues, sports and entertainment.
On Syria, nation is a threat.
World News, Monday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. Jakarta, Bangkok time.
Welcome back to Asia Prime. There are chaotic scenes at the evacuation center outside Kabul airport where desperate Afghans who attempted to leave their country before foreign troops withdraw deadline on August 31st.
Crowds swell around the concrete barriers surrounding the airport as soldiers struggled to maintain calm, with thousands arriving at the airport each day to leave the country. Many got injured and some were even killed after attempting to be evacuated. Soldiers helped treat those injured in the crushing panic and cover the bodies of those who had perished under the strain. And they also pulled people from the crowds and used a hose to cool them down to prevent further deaths and injuries. Meanwhile, evacuations are continuing. Some outgoing flights have been far from full because of the airport chaos, Taliban checkpoints, and bureaucratic challenges as well.
Well, that is also a desperate description of how the Afghan is trying to, a lot of Afghans are trying to flee the country. Heartfelt empathy for them.
So we closely monitor the situation in the coming days. Well, that will do it for us here on Asia Prime. I'm Ralph Tambubolon.
And I'm Fifi Aleda Yahya. Thank you for joining us on Asia Prime. Have a good evening.
World News, bringing you current issues, sports and entertainment.
On Syria, nation is a threat.
World News, Monday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. Jakarta, Bangkok time.
Anda tentu kenal dengan benda yang saya pegang ini. Bola biliar yang pada abad ke-19 terbuat dari gading gajah. Beruntung di akhir atau di penghujung abad ke-19 ada seorang ilmuwan yang menemukan cikal bakal bahan plastik. Sejak saat itu bola biliar terbuat dari plastik. Nah, berbicara soal plastik, kemudian struktur pengembangannya terus berubah dan berkembang menjadi lebih baik. Pada tahun 1920-an ditemukan ada material polistirena atau yang kita kenal ini sebagai styrofoam. biasanya untuk makanan. Beli bubur ayam, biasanya begini ya. Kemudian di 1933 atau 13 tahun kemudian, muncullah bahan baru yang bernama polyethylene. Polyethylene ini yang sekarang kita gunakan sampai detik ini sebagai tempat atau botol air mineral. Salah satu tugas kita adalah membuat sampah ini bisa bermanfaat kembali dan bisa didaur ulang, bahkan memiliki nilai jual besar untuk diekspor. Sebuah survei menunjukkan setiap orang di Indonesia menggunakan sekitar 19 kg plastik setiap tahunnya. Bayangkan, itu kira-kira 1 galon air mineral untuk 1 orang dalam 1 tahun. Dan itulah yang menyebabkan Indonesia masuk dalam negara-negara sebagai penyumbang sampah plastik terbesar di dunia. Ada kurang lebih 45% atau 65 juta ton sampah plastik yang tidak termanfaatkan setiap tahunnya. Padahal sampah-sampah plastik seperti yang ada di kiri kanan saya ini memiliki nilai jual yang sangat tinggi. Ini tentu bisa di-recycle, kemudian di-reuse, kita gunakan kembali, dan tentunya sebagai pengguna atau konsumen kita juga punya tanggung jawab untuk bisa mengurangi penggunaannya. Di Indonesia sendiri, orang-orang yang terlibat dalam daur ulang atau recycle sampah plastik itu ada jutaan. Ada 3,7 juta pemulung misalnya per tahun 2017 yang terlibat aktif untuk mengepul barang-barang atau sampah-sampah plastik dari rumah tangga yang kemudian disetor lagi ke pengepul dan diolah oleh pihak industri. Itulah yang dinamakan dengan ekonomi sirkular. Ini adalah sampah industri. Sampah dari sisa produksi daur ulang plastik PET dari pabrik-pabrik yang ada di sekitar Tangerang dan juga Jabodetabek. Jadi bayangkan, sampah-sampah bekas industri saja masih memiliki nilai atau manfaat untuk bisa digunakan kembali. Dan ini diekspor. Jangan main-main. Ada eksportirnya. Mas Willy sudah bersama saya. Mas Willy, apa kabar?
Apa kabar?
Mas Willy, jadi itu tadi sampah dari industri yang nanti akan diolah lagi, kemudian diekspor.
Betul, betul.
Dalam bentuk apa?
Biji plastik, Pak.
Oke, ketika nanti sampai di negara tujuan. Jadi apa saja nanti?
Fiber salah satunya ya, Pak ya.
Fiber, oke.
Itu kan kapas sintetis. Kemudian ada juga yang pakai untuk atap genteng, Pak.
Pertanyaannya kemudian, kenapa harus diekspor? Apakah kita tidak memiliki kapasitas untuk mengolahnya lagi di sini?
Karena pertama untuk marketnya sendiri yang lebih terbuka masker ekspor, Pak. Maksudnya ada artian mereka lebih willing untuk mencoba barang-barang dan ulang dibanding dengan lokal, Pak.
Dibanding dengan lokal ya?
Betul, betul.
Ini contoh-contohnya yang ada di kiri kanan kita, ini kantong-kantong yang nanti akan diekspor, sudah siap ekspor?
Sudah siap ekspor.
Sudah
betul.
Siap diangkut kontainer gitu ya?
Betul, betul Pak.
Jadi isinya, ini seperti apa, boleh lihat?
Boleh, boleh, boleh. Jadi ini salah satu contoh produk.
Ini biji plastiknya ya?
Betul, betul.
Oke.
Ini biji plastik ini.
Boleh dibuka?
Boleh, boleh, boleh.
Ini ya?
Ya. Ini untuk customer kami yang bikin fiber, Pak.
Oke.
Jadi akan membuat jadi fiber hijau yang mungkin isinya untuk karpet hijau.
Oke, oke. Berapa value-nya, berapa nilainya dari satu kantong biji plastik?